everyone, I'm Jemmy. Welcome to my new channel. I'm so glad if you're watching that you're watching this. I've decided today to do the mid-year book freakout tag. I was going to make my first video the BookTube newbie tag because that's, you know, what everyone does, but I don't really love the questions on that tag, so I've decided to just do this mid-year book freakout tag, and then maybe that'll give kind of an overview of my reading. There's 15 questions in this tag. I've already written down my answers for all the questions, so let's just jump straight into them. So the first question is, what is the best book you've read so far this year? And for this one, I am going with On Earth, We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. This book is, well, Ocean Vuong's a poet, so this is his memoir, but it's kind of a mix of poetry and prose. It's just about his life growing up as a second-generation immigrant in America. His family are Vietnamese and they moved to America during the Vietnam War. So the memoir is basically a collection of letters that he's writing to his mum, but his mum's illiterate and she doesn't speak English, or she doesn't speak English very well, I think. So he knows that she'll never read them, so they're pretty personal. But I don't know, this is just such an amazing book. I finished it a few months ago and I kind of think about it every single day. It's just, I don't know, it's really moving and just super emotional, and I just loved Ocean Vuong's writing and how poetic his style is. I mean, obviously he's a poet, but it's just really come through and the writing is so beautiful, and I cannot wait to read his poetry collection, which I think is called Night Sky with Exit Wounds. The second question is, what is the best sequel that you've read so far in 2019? And honestly, I've hardly read any sequels. I think I've only read 3 in the whole year. I don't know why, I just haven't really been into series much. So for this one, I am going with A Storm of Swords Part 2 by George R.R. Martin. This is the third book in the Game of Thrones series, but then this is part 2 of the third book. Yeah, like I said, I haven't read many series, so if I had, I don't know if this would have made it, but it was pretty entertaining. It's if you think of if you've seen the TV series, if you think of all the memorable scenes, pretty much all of them are in this book. It has a lot of good scenes and stuff, and it is really enjoyable, and I read it, it's this thick, but I read it really fast because I was super into it, and it's probably the best of the Game of Thrones books so far that I've read. The third question is, what is some new releases you haven't read yet but you want to? And I have so many for this because I've just been so behind because I've been trying to read books I already own. But I think the top 2 would be The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin, because I love N.K. Jemisin. And I think I've read all her works except The 100,000 Kingdoms and this, her new book. So that one I definitely want to read. And the second one would be Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo, which I've never read any of her other books, but I've heard so many good things about them. And I think Clap When You Land, the premise sounds like the one that I would be most into. And I think I actually have the audiobook, I just bought it, so I definitely need to read that one. The fourth question is, what is your most anticipated release for the second half of 2020? And this is definitely The Burning God by R.F. Kuang for me, which is the third book in the Poppy War series. This is a high fantasy, grimdark about it's kind of loosely based on the Second Sino-Japanese War. And this is just such a good series. I feel everyone already knows this, it's won awards and stuff, but I enjoy it so much, and I've seen the early reviews of the third book already, and they just sound just so good. They just all made it sound like it's going to be so good, and yeah, I can't wait. The fifth question is, what is your biggest disappointment of the year so far? And I have 2 for this. The first one is The King of Crows by Libba Bray. That's the 4th book in the Diviners series, which I love that series, but the 4th book was just not it. It was so boring. Nothing happened. They pretty much just walk around for a whole book, and the ending was so predictable as well. And it's 4 book series leading up to this huge showdown, and it goes down in 15 pages. It was just such a letdown. Yeah. And then the second one for me would be We Hunt the Flame, which this came out last year, and I was planning to read it last year. It sounded so good. But I don't know, it's same thing. I just found this really boring, and I didn't really care about any of the characters or anything that was happening in the whole book. And yeah, I just don't really have anything to say about it besides that. I was really excited for this. I bought the audiobook, and then when I wasn't into that, I got the physical book out the library, and it just didn't do it for me. It really let me down. The next question is, what is your biggest surprise? And for that one, I'm going with A Girl Like That by Tanaz Bhathena. This I bought in Melbourne when I went with my friend, and like I wasn't really expecting much of it, but I'm pretty sure I bought it because like I'd heard good things about it and one of my friends liked it. And it's set in Saudi Arabia, which I'd never read like a book set in Saudi Arabia before. And I finally read it this year after like, I think I bought it in like 2017. Finally read it this year and I thought it was so good. Like I really enjoyed it. So much YA contemporary like honestly goes in one ear and out the other. Like I just immediately forget about it. But like this has really stuck with me. Next question is, what is your favourite new author? And for this one, I'm going with Sally Rooney, who wrote Normal People. Sally Rooney is one of those authors that like in university, everyone would be talking about her because she's like the up and coming Irish writer. And I was always like, I'll read her books, kept putting them off. And then when the Normal People TV show came out, I was like, all right, this is it. I'm reading Normal People. And I love it. It is so good. I love her writing style. I've watched like a couple of interviews and I just like think she's kind of a cool person. I like how she deals with writing and how she talks about trying to incorporate themes and like ideas into her writing. And yeah, and I love this book. The 8th question I'm skipping because it's newest fictional crush and like, I don't really do that. Like, I think that was more like a teenage thing I did. And I don't really have one. I'm just skipping right past that. The 9th question is, who is your newest favourite character? And for this one, I am going with Emma from Jane Austen's Emma. I read this year and I loved Emma as the character. Like, she's kind of like mean and like, I guess like not that she's a bad person, but she's definitely not like, I don't know, like Elizabeth in like Bennet in terms of like goodness. But I think she's so funny. Like the entire book is her from her perspective, and I think it's funny that she kind of like lies and embellishes the truth a bit, and she like, I don't know, she's just so funny. Jane Austen said like kind of famously, she's a character only Jane Austen could love, but I disagree. Like I think like she's just one of those characters that like she reads better in like a modern time than in like this time. And yeah, so the 10th question is a book that made you cry. And honestly, I haven't really actually cried in many books this year or any. So this was kind of hard, but I ended up choosing A Little Life by Hanya. This is such a heavy book. A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I didn't really exactly cry, but the ending did make me emotional. Like, if you've read this book, you know what I mean. This whole book actually made me emotional. I don't actually know if I like this book. It's just like a little bit... I hate books where like every bad thing that can happen happens. Like it's so dramatic. Like I just don't think it's good writing to make like every bad thing happen and then like torture the character. But the ending still did get me. Like this book, it is well written. Like I'll give her that. It is really well written and the ending definitely got me. The 11th question is a book that made you happy. And for this one, I am going with Cryer's War by Nina Varela. This is a like YA fantasy about, it's like an enemies to lovers romance between a princess and then like her handmaiden, who she's like part of the resistance and she poses as a handmaiden to kill her. And it's just made me happy because it had like every YA like cheesy trope that I love. It's like if I'd read this when I was like 17, it probably would have been like my favourite thing ever. And so yeah, it just made me happy. Next question is your favourite adaptation you saw this year. This one was kind of hard because like obviously cinemas and things haven't really been open, so I haven't actually watched too many. But I've decided to go with the mini-series of Normal People by Sally Rooney. This like has such a good mini-series. They perfectly casted the main two characters. And they just got the kind of like aesthetic and themes and atmosphere of this book so perfect. And like the tone, like how it's like kind of melancholy. I loved the series. Oh, and it has 30-minute episodes, which was so good because I am so sick of 1 hour long episodes for TV shows because like I just can't concentrate that long. But this has 30-minute episodes and it was just such a good mini-series and I enjoyed it so much. The 14th question is, what is the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year? And I've only bought 3 books all year. So the first one is Emma that I've already shown you. And then the second one is Over 9 Waves, a book of Irish legends by Marie Heaney, which I bought in Dublin when I was there. But the one with the best cover is Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. And then the final question is, what books do I need to read before the end of the year? And there is so many, so I am just going to leave like a collage here of all the books. I'm hoping that they'll pop up here. And yeah, there's just so many. There's always so many books to read. So yeah, thank you so much for watching my video. I hope that you'll stick around to watch some more and that I will make some more. Like and subscribe and leave a comment. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!